Hello, everyone. Welcome again to a new interview from the interview series that we do in Technovation. As you can see, today we have the pleasure to count with us with Dr. Muhammad Ismail from the
Hello.
Public University of Navarre in Spain. So welcome, Dr. Ismail.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Same wise, it's a pleasure to have you with us and to talk about the latest paper that you have managed to publish in Technovation together with some of your colleagues from the Public University of Navarre and also from some colleagues from Castellanza in Italy about how to enhance open innovation. So let's talk about your latest paper about it and what drove you? What was the motivation to write this paper? And could you share with us which are the main messages that are included in it?
Okay, so basically the entire motivation for this paper it goes back to the idea that often a lot of people talk about the strategies and business models and these kind of aspects in order to enhance the innovation through open innovation. However, what they forget often is that it is the human beings in the end who derive the ideas, who absorb the ideas, and who communicate this idea forward and then further implement them. Let's take, for example, Kodak's example. Kodak was a huge giant at its time. However, the people became resistant. And because of this resistance, they failed to accept the change and they stuck onto their ideas. So what happened in the end? We saw a huge giant failing. Now, what was the entire reason behind this failure of Kodak? It's called not invented here syndrome. So basically, our entire motivation comes from a very practical background. In 2017, we all sat together, researchers from different universities, Sweden, Italy, Denmark, and we thought of coming up with a survey that would look into questions which are not being answered in the literature since for a very long time, actually. So the main core idea that we found was there is a lack of research on, number one, the humans in innovation, specifically in open innovation, and thirdly, challenges, for example, not invented here syndrome, cultural challenges, climate challenges, and what actually actionable tools do the managers have to further enhance the capabilities of their people. So our entire research is quite practical oriented, and it's driven from the real problems that the managers face in the real life.
Very good. And in that regard, could you elaborate a little bit more on the potential research avenues that could be opened and that could be addressed from the scholarly community of Technovation, which could be the potential areas that could be further explored?
So that's a very interesting question, actually. Since after COVID, if you see, there is a lot of funding from the US government and in the European Union as well. So as I mentioned to you that our research group is actually quite practical oriented. So right now, what we see in the industry is happening is there is a lot of advancement in the pharmaceutical area, specifically in the AI, in the artificial intelligence. So now what currently I'm doing is I'm looking into how the AI is going to change the paradigm of the medical industry in terms of how robots will enter the hospitals, for example, or how the robots will enter, or how the softwares, or how new medicine will change the dynamics of the medical industry. Because if you see overall, it's a very innovative industry. So what I want to do is I want to connect my previous research, which is on the human beings, of course, the absorptive capacity, the cognitive distance, and the not invented here syndrome. And now I want to see in specifically in the area of the pharmaceutical and the medical world, that how would this impact and what kind of changes we need in this paradigm to be able to, let's say, encounter next problems that we might incur in future, or what the problems that we saw during COVID. Because COVID, okay, I hope so that COVID is one-off thing and it doesn't happen again, but we still encounter a lot of diseases and these kind of activities on our daily basis. So what is the implication of our research in the medical science area? So that is my future research concern.
Very good. So thank you very much for sharing your ideas. And just to conclude this short interview, I guess that in your paper you also provide some new areas for further research. For example, for PhD students in Technovation, we try to promote also the participation of early career researchers. So could you provide some potential ideas for PhD students that go beyond your own research as you have shared? Something that could be important to explore?
For the researchers, so this is very interesting. So if you study not invented hair syndrome, is basically a lot of studies talk about it, but there are very few studies, like one of this study, that actually explores that what is the actual relationship of not invented hair syndrome with the innovation performance. That how does it link? Because previously we always say that there is a link, but we do not exactly know that what are the mediators and moderators, for example. So let's say our study identify one of the mediators. There is another study which was carried out Frank Pilar. It's published in Research Policy that talks about, again, the mediators of how not invented hair syndrome actually affects the innovation performance. However, still we do not know what derives not invented hair syndrome. There is a gap in the moderators and the mediators. So for example, the new PhD students could look into this area, also link it with the absorptive capacity, let's say, or how different genders, is there a difference in the genders and not invented hair syndrome? Or maybe is there a difference in the education and the not invented hair syndrome? What about the cultural differences? Because in our paper, we have 4 countries, but all of these countries are European countries. But what about the American countries? Is there any cultural difference in related with not invented hair syndrome? What about the Asian countries? What about China? Because it is a huge market. So we also have to look into that maybe is it a European problem or is it a global problem? And does it vary due to the countries? So that could be a research avenue for the new PhD students, actually.
Super. So thank you for these provocative questions, for sharing the contribution and the messages in your paper so clearly. And for me, it was a pleasure to read your paper in Technovation. So we hope that the community of scholars that follows us, they also are engaged into it. And we look forward to hearing about your next steps and your new contributions, hopefully with us in Technovation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me for this interview.
Big pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ismail.